Hello, my name is Tai Fujimura. I'm the founder of Cantilever, and today I want to give you a behind-the-scenes look at the methodology that we use to build WordPress projects, which is called Cantilever Philosophy. And as you will know, if you work with WordPress, it can be a little bit tricky to create code that is sustainable and maintainable for the long term. And that's what we're all about at Cantilever. So when we realized that clients really wanted WordPress sites quite a bit, and that it was going to be kind of here to stay, we resolved to build some infrastructure that would let us create WordPress sites in an architecture that is a little bit more suitable for modern web development. And that's what we've come up with, so I'm going to give you a quick tour. So this is Philosophy. I'm showing you a local environment. And the way Philosophy works is it's essentially a full website project, but it's just for testing. And we try to keep it up to date with our latest practices. So every time we create a project, all of our projects are very much sort of coded by hand. And so we start off with the basis that Philosophy provides us, but then we're going to continue to grow and evolve from there as we continue on the project. So a lot of the time we'll make innovations in certain projects and then bring them back in. And a couple months ago we did a large round of updates to Philosophy to make it even more, make it feel even more modern. And so I thought it would be the perfect time to do a little demo. The main sort of driver behind why Philosophy works is that you want WordPress to be there to manage your content, but you don't want your code to be running through the normal methods that WordPress uses. If you're doing custom, sort of real software development. If you're making a blog, you're making something simple based off an existing theme, even something complex. There's lots of companies that can make really amazing things happen with the normal WordPress template hierarchy and structure. But that's not for us. For us, we're really looking for a model view controller style development experience that's going to make our code a little bit more portable if it's ever going into other systems or from other systems, and give us a sort of typical development experience, even for people who aren't used to working with WordPress. So our goal with developing the system was to abstract out the WordPressiness and have code that kind of looks more like a generic MVC application. And that's Philosophy. So here in page.php, which any WordPress developer will recognize, you're used to seeing lots of stuff here: get header, get footer, the loop in the middle, your normal page template stuff. And we don't have that here. Instead, what we do is we call our global application object, and we have a special method on that object which serves a page. And when a page is served, essentially what we're doing is calling a controller, and we're calling a specific method inside that controller. So if you're not familiar with MVC concepts, you can do some sort of research, background research on that, to sort of understand that terminology. But essentially, the controller is responsible for determining what's going to be shown on a given page and for calling the right view to actually show that data. So I'll kind of go back through this request to show you how it's working. Over here is our kind of fake homepage. That's actually running through this template, which is a normal WordPress page.php template, except instead of having regular WordPress stuff, it has this single call that sort of is an entry point into our full application. And all of our application code is stored in the app directory. So outside of that, we have other things that are affecting different parts of the WordPress theme. You'll notice that this is in the normal traditional WordPress themes location, at least for now. That's still our model. But all of our custom application code is in here, and all the working code, the things that our developers are using on a day-to-day basis, is going to go in this folder. And within that, we have a controllers folder, and that controllers folder contains a file page controller, which is the one in question here. And when we're looking at this page controller, you'll see right now it just has one method. On more complex applications, a page controller can contain all sorts of methods, ranging from normal sort of RESTful routing methods like show, index, update, etc., to customized functionality that has to do with that controller and what's going on there. And if you're not familiar with an MVC system, as I mentioned, that's a great thing to research in the background. But if you are, this kind of structure here will look very familiar to you if you've worked with Laravel, namely, or CoffPHP, or any of the other prominent PHP MVC frameworks, or even if you've just worked with another MVC framework like Ruby, you might see some similarities here in the way that this works. So here's our show method, and as in most MVC systems, the controller's responsibility is really to figure out what data needs to be included on the page and send it out to a view, and that's kind of exactly what's going on here. All of our controllers automatically come with a model, which is going to come from the database, and it'll be automatically delivered to the controller method in many cases as this model. And it's going to do some manipulation on that and create what we call a context, which is the data that's going to eventually be sent to a view, and then it's going to call a render method that actually performs that action. And we'll do future videos and resources that explain the nuances of each of these things. But what I want to show right now is the model layer. And when we're looking at this .model, when it comes to a page like our home page, the model in question is a page model. And the way we have our models defined, they're also done in a very simple PHP class style. And what the models need to do is intermediate between the WordPress side of the application and the philosophy side. So we have our custom code. Our custom code expects things to be formatted in a certain way. But as we all know, if you've dealt with WordPress, WordPress has a very sort of peculiar ORM or method of getting data from the database. And so the model layer in our application is where we perform those actions so that the rest of the code base isn't doing stuff like get field or WP query or any of the other methods that are available to actually get database information. That's all handled in the model layer. It's contained, and the rest of the application can sort of act as if WordPress wasn't even the source of this data. So you can see some examples of that here. In this case, we're using advanced custom fields. And advanced custom fields contains or comes with several utility functions for fetching ACF data. If we were to look at some of our other models, including the base model from which all models come, you would see that the first thing that we're doing really is looking at a WordPress post object. So when we're creating a model, the first thing that we're doing is using the data that WordPress naturally delivers for that object. So one thing I could do here is, we know that this page model is being generated as a part of rendering the page. So what I'll do is just dump this out so that you can see kind of what it looks like initially. Actually, what I'll do is this. And if you're not familiar, this is a little utility function, dump and die, which is something that we kind of snagged from the Laravel side of things. You'll notice some other very Laravel inspired or even directly pulled from the Laravel codebase code within our system as well. So here is the WordPress post that this model originally comes in with, and if you've worked with WordPress, you'd be very familiar with how this looks. It has ID, title, status, all that stuff. And this stuff is very WordPressy and useful to a lot of sort of more typical WordPress applications or situations. But for us, we don't really need it. We don't really care about ping status or post modified date a lot of the time or anything like that. So what our model layer does is it takes this data and it processes it and turns it into a cleaner final format. So what I'll do is I'll take away this dump and I'll show you kind of how things look at the very end after we've done all of our processing within a model. So that's the old one. I'll just load a new tab here. And this is the new one. The old WordPress post data stays in here as a key, but what our views and controllers are going to be dealing with is the sort of cleaner, pure data that we've pulled out. So these are all the things that we really actually need in order to render the page, and they're pulled out into this nice clean format that doesn't contain any of these keys that we don't actually need from the old WordPress post format. So that's really the crux of why Philosophy works. It's a normal MVC structure for building a page, but what really powers it is the fact that the model layer can intermediate between WordPress and our custom code base to create models that the rest of the code base is going to very easily work with, but while retaining the power of the WordPress CMS and interface, and the comfort level that a lot of our clients have with it. So yeah, look forward to much more to come on Philosophy. We plan to do a lot more content related to it, and sharing some of the things that we've learned while building it. This is just a brief introduction. I would love any feedback or questions in the comments, and yeah, see you next time. Thank you.